Hi, this is Tom. Welcome back to Life 4.0 and the second in our series on installing solar. In our first video, we discussed the feasibility of a solar panel system. In this video, we dive into the actual economics of the project, looking at electrical demand, solar production, and the resulting cost-benefit analysis. It is time to put aside the drone and the review of shading and put on our financial analyst hat so that we can start crunching some numbers. My daughter was quick to challenge me at this stage, saying, "But Dad, you're not doing it for economic reasons, right?" And she was right. I was primarily doing this project to reduce our carbon footprint. But it is still good to run the numbers to determine a good balance between electrical demand and solar production, and therefore arrive at a proper kilowatt size for your array. In order to figure this all out, I put together a spreadsheet to run the numbers. You'll find a link to download the spreadsheet file in the video description. If you are leery of spreadsheets, you can hire someone to do this analysis, but I think you'll find that it is pretty straightforward, and I've done a lot of the setup for you. So let's dive in. The first step is to figure out your average electrical demand, which is the top section of the spreadsheet. To do this, you want to go to your utility bill. What you are looking on your bill is your monthly kilowatt hours, which is often abbreviated as kWh. Our utility, Eversource, also provided 12 months of history, which was very helpful for the spreadsheet. On the second page of the bill, I can find our current month's kilowatt hours, which is 1284. So I put that number in the first yellow cell. Any cell that is yellow is for you to enter into. The other cells are calculated for you. I also need the total cost of the bill, which in this case was $244. So I put that in the yellow cell below. I did this for each month of the year, and I went back 3 years in time. This was my choice, and you may decide not to do as much history, but I wanted to get the best average as possible. Under the summary section, you can see that the spreadsheet calculates the average for each month and does this for each month of the total analysis. So in October, the average was 689, but you can also see that our kilowatt demand varies quite a bit from year to year. This year, it was about 3 times as much it was in the past 2 years. This was partly due to the fact that we recently acquired an electric car. But on average, you can see that we are consuming about 1,000 kilowatt hours plus or minus per month, or a total of roughly 12,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is pretty typical for a 3,000 square foot home in our area. As for cost, we are paying about $2,200 per year. And on that note, it's time to get a little more familiar with how your utility charges you for electricity. First, you'll notice here in this cell the calculated fully loaded rate you pay per kilowatt hour for electricity, basically taking the total bill divided by the number of kilowatt hours. For us, it is 19 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, we live in New Hampshire with one of the highest electrical rates in the country, so your rate may be less. Now, let's dig into what makes up that kilowatt hour rate. For this, you'll want to spend some time looking at the breakdown on your utility bill. For Eversource, there are 2 sections of the bill, one for supply charges, as shown right here, and one for delivery charges right below. In the supply section, you'll see our rate is about 8.8 cents per kilowatt hour. For delivery, there's a bunch of stuff in here. There's a flat customer charge of $13.81, distribution charge of about 4.5 cents, transmission charges, something called a stranded cost recovery charge, and system benefits charge. Now, why am I taking you through all this? It all relates to what is called net metering, the process by which your utility will measure the amount of electricity you pull from the grid, you push back to the grid, and how much they will charge and credit you for these 2 transactions. A net meter is a special meter that measures the two-way flow of electricity. If you don't already have one, your utility will provide one for you, typically free of charge. But for now, you'll need to examine your utility's website to understand their net metering rates. This may take some digging around, and you may also try your state's Public Utility Commission. They may have information on rates, or at least more information about net metering for you to reference. Regardless, for Eversource, they describe something called net purchases, shown down here. And the net purchase is the energy supply charge plus the distribution charge and the transmission charge. And the other part is they describe net sales, which is the amount that you are pushing back to the grid. And this is that supply charge again, the transmission charge, but only 25% of the distribution charge. Now we're going to take those rates off of the utility bill. So back here on the utility bill, supply charge was 8.8 cents, distribution was 4.5, transmission 2.2 cents, and we're going to put those into the spreadsheet under the net metering section down here. For this cell, kilowatt credit if under demand, we'll put the supply rate here, distribution rate, and the transmission rate. This cell basically refers to the money you are saving by not buying electricity from the grid. For the cell kilowatt credit if over demand, this refers to the credit issued by the utility for any overproduction, meaning on sunny days when you are producing more than your house is demanding, or what Eversource called net sales. And you'll see that that cell includes that 25% portion of the distribution rate. If you are one of the lucky ones and your utility simply gives you a full kilowatt credit for every kilowatt you push back to the grid, then you can just add up all of those individual rate components on your bill and take that full amount and put it in both cells. Okay, so we have an estimate of demand and we have our net metering rates. It is time now to build an estimate of our solar production. To do this, I found two good sources of estimating sunshine. The first is a website called Current Results. For each month of the year and for each major city, they have data on the average amount of sunshine. In this example, if I choose January, there is a 53% chance of sunshine in Boston. Now, I put each one of those percentages in this row here. So under January, for percentage of clear days, I put 53%. And I went month to month in that website and put all the data in this row. Up above is the kilowatt array size of 10 kilowatts that I'm planning. And then the row above that is something called hours of production if clear day. This is an estimate that I put together using the drone photography and other pictures I took throughout the year of our site and taking into account the height of the sun during the seasons and any kind of shading going on in our property. And you'll see that in the peak summer months, I'm planning on up to 6 hours per day of sunshine, and in the peak winter months, about 3 hours per day of sunshine. So with this all combined together, we get a kilowatt hours estimated production of 730 kilowatt hours in October. This is compared to a demand of 689 kilowatt hours. So this month, there is a slight overproduction. Using the rates that we previously worked on, we're going to generate a credit of $107 plus another $5 for the overproduction, or a total savings of $112 for that month. Total savings for the year is calculated to be about $1,300. And equally important is this estimate here of the total kilowatt hour production for the year of about 8,500 kilowatt hours. This compares to our demand of close to 12,000 kilowatt hours, and we're going to be meeting about 72% of our total demand based on using the data from Current Results. Another source for sunshine is the PV Watts website built by the National Renewable Energy Lab. And by the way, I will include links to all these sites and reference information into the video description. This site does more of the work for you than the current results site. You simply enter in your address, and it finds a site near you, in this case 0.9 miles away, that it's going to pull solar statistics from. And then you click to the next page. And here you enter information on your solar array. So I'm going to have a solar array I'm projecting of 10 kilowatts. Module type I left as standard. The array type you want to leave as open rack if you're going to be doing a ground mounted system. Obviously, if you're going to mount on your roof, you'd want to select roof mount. System losses of 14% I left as their default. And then tilt angle, I'm going to put as 40 degrees. That's what I'm planning on doing based on our latitude. And azimuth, again, is that angle of your array compass-wise. So 180 degrees is directly south, and that's what we're planning on our positioning of our array. There's some other advanced parameters here, and also you can put in your total kilowatt rate here if you want to have it calculate savings for you. But we're just going to go on to the next page here. And magically, it has calculated, based on each month of the year, the predicted solar radiation on your panels, but more importantly, the kilowatt hour production by month. So you can then take these numbers and put them into the spreadsheet. Under this section here that I built for scenario 2 using PV watts report. This first row, by the way, is just for reference. It's not used for the calculations below, but you want to put in the results from the PV watts website into this row here by month, and then you'll see the calculations determined here based on your savings, and then any kind of additional savings based on overproduction, and then a total credit. So in this, you'll notice that the PV watts is a little more optimistic than the current results. It is estimating a total production of about 12,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is a little bit over our demand. So we're having a little bit of an overproduction in total. We're meeting about 105% of our demand. And that our savings is going to be about $1,800 instead of $1,300. Now, I will just say that you don't really want to plan your array for more production than you're going to consume in your house. Generally, the utilities don't look favorably and don't give you a very good rate if you're pushing more electricity out to the grid, average over a 12-month period of time, versus what you're consuming. So it's good to kind of plan on something below 100%. Now, these are two estimates, 70% and 100%. I was aiming for a production of about 80% of our demand. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the 10 kilowatt sizing, and this is how you can play around with different sizing for your array by using these numbers and looking at the results of how much demand you're meeting based on current results and PV watts estimates. It's time now to move to the grand finale, the calculation of net present value of the project. Many of you may have heard about the topic of a project's payback or break even. For instance, if I spend $1,000 now, and that allows me to save $100 a year, then we'd say that the project has a 10-year payback. But this is flawed in that it does not account for the time value of money. $100 10 years from now is not worth as much as $100 today, as that $100 can be invested and gain some amount of return in those 10 years. So properly done, that savings each year in this hypothetical $1,000 project needs to be reduced, or some people call it discounted, to their present day value, using an assumption for the interest rate. If you're still a little foggy on the concept, the example below should help. First off, we're going to make some assumptions. That the electrical rates shown here are going to increase each year by 2%. This is simply a reality of most utilities. Secondly, we need to assume some level of investment interest rate. And typically I use 10%, but you can put whatever you want in here. Now we need to put together the costs for the project. The first item here is the materials cost. For this, I went online to several solar supply sites to get a rough quote for a 10 kilowatt ground-mounted system. If you are in New England, you might try the Alt-E store, as I found that they had several packaged systems that will give you a good ballpark number. The effort now to find easy companies to work with will help you a lot down the road when you actually need to finalize your order. In the end, my quote from Alt-E was just under $13,000. So to allow for some contingency, I put in $15,000 for materials. Next, for installation, I was planning to do most of the work to install the system myself, so no labor costs there. The only exception was electrical work, where I planned to hire a local electrician, and based on rough estimates from him, with some contingency, I put in $5,000 for electrical work. Now, if you look at this on a per watt basis, the materials are $1.50 per watt, and together with the electrical, we get to a $2 per watt estimate. I did some research on the per watt cost for a completely installed system, and these seem to be around $2.50 to $3.50 per watt. So I felt like I was in the neighborhood with my do-it-yourself $2 per watt cost. Next, there is the federal tax credit. You want to check out the laws in place at the time, but currently, for 2020, the credit has been reduced from 30% to 26%. For other incentives, the state of New Hampshire offers a $1,000 credit, so I put that in, and when this is all added up, we get to a total project cost of $13,000. Now, if you look at the NPV calculations below, you'll see the $13,000 cost, followed by a credit of $1,321 based on the current results scenario above. And this savings increases slightly each year due to the 2% annual utility rate increase assumption. These yearly credits go out 30 years in the spreadsheet. And then down here, you will find the actual NPV calculations. What this means is, in present day dollars, if the project were to last for only 10 years, or if we were to sell our house at the 10-year mark, I would be out $3,800. However, if I stay in my home for 20 years, it is starting to turn positive, and any further years of solar are positive returns. Most solar panels are warranted for 25 years, and likely could last longer, so it is not out of the question that this system would be in place for 30 years, netting me $1,600 in today's dollars. For scenario 2, with the PV watts data, you can see that the project is nearly even at year 10, and using the system beyond this point is making you money in today's dollars, up to $7,000 in a 30-year scenario. This is $7,000 after you've paid the $13,000 project cost. And in neither of these scenarios have I included the possible value to a buyer if you were to sell your house with solar, saving them every month on their utility bill. Let's be fair, none of these financial analyses are going to be perfect. There's many estimates and assumptions involved. But if you use this spreadsheet or one of your own, you at least are going to be in control rather than relying on a third party that may have bias in their numbers or suspect assumptions. In the end, it is only a guide, but hopefully it will show you the benefit of going solar. That wraps up this video in our multi-part series on solar. Join us next time as we start dropping trees, applying for permits, sourcing materials, and then putting the excavator through its paces. If you enjoyed watching this video, please consider giving us a like, as it really helps others find this kind of content. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell to be notified of our upcoming releases.